My name's Rick Parkinson, and I'm the product planning manager for Pioneer DJ across EMEA and essentially Europe. So what my job is to do is to develop all of our DJ equipment. So all of the CDJs and DJMs and effectors and speakers, I'll have played some part in the product planning and development of those products. So I apologize if we've done something wrong and you weren't very keen of it and you weren't a fan of it, but yeah, hopefully we can do better things in the future. So yeah, because I'm from the product planning team, I want to use this as an opportunity to get your feedback on our equipment as well. If there's anything we've developed that you don't like or you want to see in new products or you want to see inside software, then please do make sure you tell me and we can make sure we study your opinions and try and put it into future developments of our hardware and software. So the crux of today is really all about Rekordbox and Rekordbox DJ that we released in October, just gone last year in 2015. So from my understanding is you guys are predominantly controller DJs, is that right? Yeah? So are you using, who's using Serato? Serato, who's using Traktor? And who's using Pioneer with USB keys? So that's no surprise to me because I understand that the market in Tel Aviv is 80% controller DJs. So sure, controllers are very popular here. So who's using any Pioneer controllers? Oh, that's a terrible start. Traktor controllers? So what's the main, so kind of quite a big split then. Controller DJs, DVS, timecode? No. So mainly Traktor and Serato. So great, so there's a massive mix of users of different hardware and software. So all I'm here today to do is just to show you what we've recently brought into the market. I'm not trying to tell you to switch from your preferred setup. I'm not trying to sell you into our platform. Obviously, that would be amazing in the future, but hopefully I can share with you some of the features and functions that you didn't know necessarily existed within our Rekordbox platform. So has everybody heard of Rekordbox? Yeah? And everybody heard that we released a DJ version of Rekordbox in October, that gave you the ability to connect controllers into it. Yeah? Good. So Pioneer were famous for making hardware, and that's kind of what we've always been good at doing. You know, for 20 years now, we've been manufacturing digital DJ equipment like controllers, and obviously you all know the CDJ 2000 Nexus here. And sure, software is very new to us, and we're late to the game. You know, Serato and Traktor, Virtual DJ, Algorithm. There's so many platforms out there doing an amazing job. But it was important for us to release a software that was compatible with controllers, because as you've all described, controllers is very important in your market. So yeah, Rekordbox came about around 6 years ago when we introduced the CDJ 2000. And the reason that we needed a piece of software to support it, like Rekordbox, was because it's a database management tool. And it was our first player to support the playback of digital media, essentially music on a USB and an SD card. And of course, you could have just stuck music onto a USB key and with files and folders and dragged it into playlists on the desktop and navigated it on the screen. But without a piece of supporting software like Rekordbox, you basically have a very unintelligent piece of hardware to play back the music. You can't make playlists, you can't make cue points, you can't make loops, you can't save histories, you can't start to build up a collection of music. And that's what Rekordbox was. And Rekordbox has developed over the past 6 years, and now we've launched the DJ module. So, just a little bit of history before we kind of get involved in what the software is about and the features and functions that's available. So, for you all that are using Rekordbox now, here's a little bit of a brief overview of what Rekordbox is today. Yeah, who's taking their controllers to gigs? Yeah? Is everybody playing out? Is everybody still kind of practicing and getting educated here? Yeah, so more of a, okay, great. So yeah, this is what Rekordbox looked like before we added the DJ module. And as you can see, it's kind of quite a simple piece of software, and that's all we wanted to do with it. We just wanted it to be a tool to manage your music. You can import your music from iTunes, you can import it from the desktop, you can create WAVs over the top of the music and create cue points and loop points, and essentially export all of this music onto a USB key. And that's always been our vision. Our strategy has always kind of been, you know, let's leave the laptop at home and worry about DJing in the club with hardware that's meant to be DJing with and not necessarily the laptop. But sure, now we've got the option, if you do want to use a laptop, to also bring it into a club environment as well. So I'm going to go into a lot of the features and functions, but one of the main things I want to get across at a very early point is that unlike our competitors, so for example, Traktor and Serato, Rekordbox is designed around a central database of music. So let's say I'm new to DJing. I decide to start managing my music in Rekordbox. I'm happy with that. I use a controller with it, but then tonight I've got a gig in a club and they're not going to let me take a controller. There's no space to put my controller. Shit, all of my music's inside Rekordbox. What do I do? So the amazing thing is you can just export it onto a USB like you could do before we even added the DJ module. So no matter what environment you want to DJ in, whether it's USB keys, whether it's SD cards, whether it's controllers, whether it's HID mode with a CDJ, whether it's Pro DJ link on the LAN port from the computer, whether it's from a SSD drive, you can perform in any type of environment on any piece of our hardware. So yeah, you've got a real fail-safe option there to ensure that you can DJ in any type of environment. So that's what I really think our key point of the software is. Okay, so some of the existing features inside Rekordbox today. We've got a 2-player mode. I'm going to go over all of these features individually. You can preview music before you've loaded it. You can match tracks for future reference if they sound great together. You can analyze tracks, including key detection. You can view and edit up to 5 playlists on the fly, so always dragging and dropping music into different categories. You can create playlists and export them onto USB drives, as I said, and you can set and store cue point information like loops, cues, hot cues, and also the database is super solid, so you can search for your music super quickly. So a real brief overview of what the Rekordbox software is trying to achieve. So some of the new features that we introduced into version 4 that came out about a year ago before we introduced, version 3 before we introduced version 4, was My Tag. So My Tag is a feature that's unique to your personal style. So the way that I use My Tag is that if I find a track that's got a load of really cool 909 snares in it, I make this tag called 909 that I edit myself. Or if I find a track that's got a really cool, I don't know, freaky acid techno line, I'll tag it freaky acid techno. So when you're in the club or you're at home and you're practicing and where's that 909 record, you can just search 909 tags and it will pull up all of your tags. And you can customize on the right-hand side there any type of tag you want. So I don't know, it could be anything you want it to be. So lots of ways to kind of search and manage music very quickly. If you're preparing music and you think that 2 tracks sound great together, you can hit a match button, and then next time you play that track, the software will suggest you, are you aware that last time you played this track sounded great with it? So an option for you to be able to perform back with. And related tracks. We have all got so much digital music now, it can be quite difficult to navigate through music. So a tool that we introduced was what we called related tracks. And based on rules that you give the tool, it will show you tracks based on those rules. So for example, I'm scrolling through my library and I'm playing a techno track that has a 909 tag that I made up. And if I set the related tracks rule up to show me all of those tracks, as you scroll through your library, it will show you in a new playlist all of those tracks that are ready to be mixed into that track. So that could be genre, that could be key, that could be BPM within a certain variable plus and minus rate, or it could be anything you want it to be, and a variation of those rules. So lots of options. The little WAV form to the left-hand side is what we call a quick preview. So even before loading the track, you can see visually how it's going to sound. And if you just click that WAV form, it will skip through the track super quick so you can preview it without even loading it. And I know Track to have a similar feature as well. And a tree shortcut. Right on the left-hand side, you can see the little icons at the top. Any part of the software, you can basically drag onto the left-hand side, so you've got a quick access to it at no matter what point. So let's say you've got 500 playlists in your collection, but you're always going to your, I don't know, gig on Saturday night playlist. You can just drag it up there and you've always got quick access to it. Lots and lots of options. This was the playlist palette that I spoke about. So you can have these small banks open above your collection view, and as you're navigating through your music, you can simply drag and drop tracks into these playlists and edit them as and when you please. And yeah, color is a new feature that we introduced that's currently only supported on our XDJ 1000 and XDJ 700, but of course is supported in the DJ module. So your cue points that you select up within your tracks, you can also give them colors, so there's visual representation when you're navigating through your music. So lots of ways to kind of start managing your music. And if you wanted your cue point at the start of your track to say start, or you wanted it to say breakdown, all this visual feedback will come on the hardware and on the software. So, you know, I know this is the super detail here, but the amount of effort that you put in is the amount of reward you get back when you're playing on the hardware. Of course, you can chuck music in there and export it onto a USB, simple. But if you want to get all of these cool features, as with any platform, and as with any old vinyl bag, and even looking after it and managing it, you've got to put the effort in. Yeah, two-player mode was something simple that we introduced just to audition how two tracks would sit together. So you play one track in the deck on the top, and you load another track into the deck on the bottom, and you hit sync, and you just have a simple crossfader tool, so you can hear how tracks sound together, which you could never do until you actually got into the club and started playing on the hardware. And sure, because everybody's using a different type of platform to download music, to store music, I put all of my music into iTunes and then I bridge it into Rekordbox, but somebody might be using Windows Explorer or putting music into a folder system of genre and artist and date. You can set up a sync manager within the software. So as soon as you've downloaded music and you've put it into your house folder or house playlist in iTunes, you open Rekordbox, it sees this playlist, it imports it, exports it onto your device. So a real kind of 360 platform for managing your music. Of course, you've still got to go in there and edit playlists and put cue points in and loop points, but you've all got a system to manage your music. And if I tell you my system, it's going to be different to your system and your system, but the sync manager will ensure that it's the smoothest transition possible. So, yeah, one of the great things as well is post-gig and post-using our hardware, once you put your USB device back into your collection, it will say, do you want to import your history? And you can see your playlist from the gig. You can rename that. And let's say you're performing and you found an amazing loop. As long as you press save on the player, the track information will then be updated inside the software as well. So lots and lots of tools to make sure that everything's as good as it can be. So that's a really quick overview of Rekordbox. I'm really here to talk to you about the new DJ module that we added. Okay, so Rekordbox DJ. So this is kind of what it looks like rather. And you can see straight away, it's got the same collection view that Rekordbox had, but we now have the option to see virtual decks as you would do in Traktor and Serato, for example. Yeah. So some of the main features that we introduced within Rekordbox DJ are, we know we're new to this software DJing environment. And of course, we've got a lot of catch-up to do with our competitors. But we also want to develop an ecosystem that users can come into in an early age, for example. So the entry point into Rekordbox has always been quite high in the past because you need to have had an expensive CDJ. But now, with Rekordbox supporting lots of different pieces of hardware, like our entry-level Wigos and SR and SXs and SX2s, there's also a cheaper or a different way to enter into our ecosystem. So one of our main things that we wanted to ensure that was as good as possible was that it was as fast as it could be, it ran under the lowest CPU possible, and it was as stable as possible. Of course, we're going to have bugs, and of course, they're going to get fixed. But with 2 months, 3 months in the market, the initial reports are very, very, very positive. And if you just search over our forums, of course, people that have bugs and features they want to add, but the complaints have generally not been about it won't run at this speed or etc. So very positive from a product planning point of view. And another thing is that when you're developing software and hardware with a third-party company, so for example, we have the DDJ SX2, that's an amazing product for us and very important product for us. It works with Serato DJ, which is great, but we might want our hardware to do this, but Serato DJ might not be able to do that type of feature within their roadmap, and we have our own agenda. So now that we make our own hardware and software together, we can basically do whatever we want. We've got free reign, so that's good news. Yeah, so I'll quickly skip over some of the features and I'll go into more detail about them. So we have a multi-screen view now. So anybody use Ableton where you can split the screen, you can have your session view on one window and your VSTs or your mixer on another window. We have the ability to split screen if you did have another screen with your setup. Obviously, we've got the 4-deck mode, 2-deck mode, the vertical mode, and the horizontal view. And also pad effects as well. This is a new feature that we've introduced. Our hardware have lots of pads. So we've managed to map effects and different parameters of effects onto pads so you can perform in a bit more of a visual manner. And of course, all of those hot cues, loops, and cue points that you've managed will call up onto the hardware and be represented with whatever color you've selected inside the software. There's a slicer mode and a slip mode that we've inherited from our CDJ range, and also a 16-slot sampler. And the 16-slot sampler consists of 16 slots times 4 banks, and each bank can have up to 4 bars worth of audio, dependent on the BPM. So it's quite a comprehensive sampler where you can obviously edit volumes and velocities and starting points and gains of sounds, and also sequence sounds in as well. So you could perform with little drum loops or little hi-hat patterns, and also save those banks and play them back afterwards, and also capture audio from the track playing and splice it into one of the pads. So lots and lots of cool features. And then beat effects, of course, off our DJM range, release effects off our RMX range, and of course, quantized beat jumping throughout all of your music. So this is actually updated since we launched. Sorry, I haven't updated this slide. But what we wanted to do was to ensure that all of our hardware was supported by Rekordbox DJ. So when we launched, we did support our 2 new pieces of hardware, the DDJ RX that I have here today, and the DDJ RZ. These are the other pieces of hardware we support. But basically now we support our entire range, apart from a few other products that we can't yet support because they're exclusive to Serato for a year or so. So yeah, we're really working hard to support as many pieces of hardware as possible. So yeah, Wigos, SR, SX, CDJ in HID mode, XDJ, CDJ 350, and then also some of the older products will be supported later on in the year. So yeah, we've got lots and lots of things to come with support. And obviously HID support as well, if you want to use your CDJ with a USB lead. Does everybody know what HID mode is? Sorry. No, okay. So obviously, yeah, we've got a controller here that's connected to the laptop, which is simply just on a USB lead. And the way that initially was designed to use our players was via USB. So all of your music goes from here via Rekordbox onto the USB key. But HID mode basically means human integrated device, which basically means you can use the hardware to control the software. And I'll show you how to do that. Personally, if you have a CDJ2000 Nexus, you should be just playing back off USB. There's no real need to connect to your laptop, because if something's going to happen, this is going to crash. So yeah, like I said, we now have the interface to be able to mirror how our hardware and software look. So you can see that the RX at the bottom is kind of pretty similar to the design of Rekordbox DJ. So the colors are the same, the effects banks are in the same location, the pads are under the decks as they are on the hardware. So yeah, we're really trying to mirror both the hardware and the software environment. Yeah, so some of the other features available, the split screen, as I said. So you could have all of your tracks in one database, but then have your virtual decks on another track, on another screen, and then also all of the other features, the preview, the My Tag, playlist palettes, related tracks, tree shortcuts, etc. So yeah, this is the sampler mode. So you can see there the different banks, and this is actually in the edit mode. So you load a sound into one of these banks. Oh, sorry, this is the pad effects mode. So you can basically have an effect on one of these pads, and you can change what type of effect it is, and you can chain up all these different effects on the pads. I'll do a demo soon, and you'll be able to hear how it sounds. This is the sampler, sorry. So you get a sound, whether that's an imported sound or whether you've captured it from one of your records. You pop it into one of the sample banks. You can loop it. It can be a one shot. It can be sampled. It can be over 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar. You can save your patterns, kind of similar to flip mode in Serato DJ. And the little buttons on the left-hand side are the banks. And obviously you can load up different banks. So bank 1 could be one shots. Bank 2 could be loops. Bank 2 could be individual 909 sounds, for example, or bank 4 could be acidy 808 sounds, so you can do whatever you want. Yeah, and also then from the sampler, you can obviously send that into the effects engine as well, so you can manipulate the sampler with the effects engine at the same time. Sound color effects. So on our DJM 900 and our DJM 850, 750, we've always had these 4 little pots in the middle of the mixer, these little silver ones. And these were basically sound color effects. So you could do a high pass or add some kind of effect over the top of it. So yeah, you can customize those as well. So if you didn't want this one to be a jet, it could be a filter, it could be a sweep, it could be a white noise oscillator. So again, you can really start to customize how the color effects work. And beat effects. So yeah, off the DJM 900 Nexus, we've pulled in all of those effects, so slip, roll, echo, spirals, delays, and put them all into the effects engine. You can either have chained effects or single effects, so you can chain 3 effects together, or you could have a single effect with multiple parameters. So one pot could be a wet to dry, one pot could be a high pass and low pass filter on the tail, another pot could be reversing the delay tail. So lots and lots of ways to manipulate audio. And then release effects. On the RMX 1000, we introduced what we called release effects on a small trigger. And it's kind of like a DJ get out of jail free card. If you've done too many effects and it's gone a bit crazy, you just hit a little button, it puts a smooth break or a timed echo on the back of the track, and then the track will just start again. So we introduced that on this little button here and this one here next to the effects engine. Yeah, so as I started with, it's all about having this one universal database. So no matter what type of DJ environment you're in, you're always going to be able to perform with your database you've spent hours and hours creating and putting together and managing. So yeah, just a little bit about the software before we go into it. So Rekordbox is free of charge. The DJ module within Rekordbox is chargeable, as is Serato DJ, for example. So you can still do all of your music management and export onto a USB key, free of charge. But if you want to be able to use the DJ module, because we believe there's a lot more added value inside there, effects, release effects, pad effects, recording, sequencers, samplers, then it's 139 euros, or you can subscribe to it monthly for 10.90 euros. But we also do offer a 30-day free trial. So if you want to check it out, by all means check it out, and the trial ends and you don't like it, no harm done. But it would be great if you purchased it. So this version, this view here of Rekordbox is the Rekordbox that you would download free of charge. And we call this export mode. So yeah, you can see here, my library's a right mess at the minute. So, but yeah, you can see how, yeah, you start to import tracks. And up here is where you put your cue points in and your hot cues. And then when you export it onto a USB key, that's where you would play back from there. So, yeah, let me just pull up one of the tracks into the player. And make sure the audio output is set to... Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is just normal export mode. So let me load this track in. So first of all, I'm going to put in a cue point at the start of the track. So, and then I want to put in like a hot cue, or a hot cue, or a hot cue. And you can see how they weren't quantized. But if you hit quantize, and I do that again, yeah, or this could be down here. Well, let's put a loop in.
Still together. Still together.
And then you press memory, it banks it up here. And then if we put in another loop down here.
More times to appreciate each other. That's what we're times to appreciate
and put in
each
another
other.
one.
That's what we're times to appreciate each other. That's what we're times to appreciate each other. That's what we need together.
So yeah, this is where you would then go, I don't know, start, break, oops, sorry. I don't know, end, for example. So you can start to see how you can start to build up your collection. And then this is where you would put your different colors in. And a really cool feature in export mode that not many people know about is what we call an active loop. So what's the one thing that you do when a track gets to the end and you're mixing? Looping. And sometimes, I don't know, you do the loop, and sure, it might be all perfectly quantized, but I don't know, a sound came in that's out of phrase, and it's like, shh, and then it loops back in. And although it's all nice and sunk, it's just a bit of a pain in the arse sometimes. So in this type of environment, you have the time to make sure that that loop sounds perfect. So if I put in a loop, so I know I've got that little hook, so that sounds better. So if I press memory again, it stored it over here, which is what I wanted it to do. But if I then press this, it basically goes red here. So if I exit out of this loop and go back down here, when it gets to this loop point, and that will do that on the hardware as well. Yeah, what we call an active loop. So yeah, really, really cool feature that's quite simple to do. And that, of course, will then work on a controller, it will work on a CDJ. No matter whenever you play that record, it will do that. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then, yeah, sure, you just press exit and it will finish if you want to get out of it.
I want to export it now and just...
Yeah, sure. So let me just unplug the right one. This one. So yeah, this is my USB key. So what track was it? Working lane. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll get to that track and you can show you that it's looping. So if I just put in my USB drive. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new playlist over here. I'm just gonna call it BPM. I go over to my collection, working late, and I'm just gonna drag it into BPM. So this is that playlist. I'm just gonna right click, export playlist to that device, and then my device is down here. Wait for it to exit. And then, yeah, so if I just hit I know you can't really see that well, but I'll just go into USB, playlist, BPM. There's the track that we just did. And my audio. So I'm just about to get up to that loop point. So yeah, you can see on screen now that it's gone into that loop. So if you press recall, it will then store them into it will then load them into the hot cue banks. Or if those memory cue points that I put in, you use these buttons here and it navigates through the track. So it's searching through the track. And you can even have a feature called auto hot cue load. So as soon as you load that track into the deck, it automatically loads all of those features for you and banks them into the hardware. And then you're good to go. So yeah, on the browse mode, let me just get rid of all of these windows. So yeah, this is kind of just your bog standard view. So just like Traktor and Serato, we have different windows to view. We've got our 2-deck horizontal mode, 2-deck vertical mode, 4-deck horizontal, 4-deck vertical, and then if kind of you don't really want any of your decks and you just want to concentrate on using the hardware, then we have a browse mode as well. So for today's purposes, I'll just show you the, 2-deck horizontal. That's the one I prefer. And yeah, this is just your master volume here. This is your master volume output. This is a CPU level, a clock that's pretty important, a settings window, so you can navigate through all of the settings. I'm not going to bore you with all of the settings, but you can really start to customize settings of individual parameters and crossfader curves and isolator mode or EQ modes, what the pads, different colors are, what type of effects. Yeah, it's like Traktor's effects, a bit too much going on. Traktor's settings, kind of lots to learn. Over on this side, sure, this is your normal export and performance mode, our effects window, a CFX window where you can edit what the effects, CFX pots are, the sampler modes. I'll go over all these, don't worry. A mixer mode, if you want to be able to see your mixer and how the EQ is affecting the track and where the crossfader is. And a simple record mode that will just look at the master output the master output and just record onto your desktop WAV. So yeah, lots and lots of options. Okay, so first of all, I'll go over a few of the effects. So that'll do. So let me just put a little loop in. So our loop, is it better? Yeah, our loop buttons are just here, so you can. Okay, so with our effects, you have two different types of effects. You have your chained mode and you have your single mode. So for single mode, it's just one effect, wet to dry, but you have different parameters like low pass filters or reverb times or pitch up and down settings, depending on what type of effect you're using. Can everybody hear me okay while over the music? Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, I'm on this deck up here. So yeah, pretty simple. I'm on channel 2. This is my effects engine up here. Yeah, if I engage the effect, And I know that I'm on the right effects engine here because it says channel 2, and this is channel 2. There's a button on and off here. So this is the beat parameter. That's just a simple kind of 3/4 delay. Sorry, I'm in the wrong. So that's better. So yeah, this is your wet to dry on the echo. And then as I said, you can see over here, you have now a deeper effects engine because you have more control. So if I engage the feedback a little bit more. And then now with this one, you can alter the filter of the tail. Freeze. So it kind of mutes the track, but 100% feedback. And then as you can hear the tail echoing, you can change to reverse the tail as well. So and something that is really cool is that it's all post fader, which means when you pull the fader down, you get the tail of the effect, which Traktor and Serato struggle with. So not to keep referencing our competitors, but I know it's definitely a feature that a lot of people want in Traktor and Serato, and it's difficult to achieve. Again, one of the benefits of making your own hardware and software. So yeah, let me run through some other effects. At the minute I'm on an echo, but if you just hit shift and up here, you can play with spiral, for example. So one of my favorite effects. Like a really gnarly tape effect. And then you could obviously change the pitch. So yeah, you could get some really cool kind of Richie Hawtin techno-y do-do-do-do's going on. So yeah, lots of different effects. We really worked hard on the reverb this time. I know the Traktor T3 reverb's really good, lots of pressure. So and yeah, reverse delays, multi-tap delays, pitch echoes, transform, panning, different types of filter with resonance control. You can either hit shift and select the effect again like we did. So let me put on an echo, for example. Change the timing. Add some reverb. Then maybe change this one. Kind of got a stereo, or and because I've put the filter on the end of the tail, you get that on the reverb. So yeah, lots and lots of different options. And obviously, those effects apply to both deck 1, deck 2, deck 3, whichever deck you want it to be controlled with, as long as you just select it up here. Okay, so the release effects I spoke about that we introduced on the RMX 1000, centralized here. So if I again hit shift and kind of select my different release effects, I've now got an echo, a backspin, a vinyl break. So if I go to echo, or if I change that to like a vinyl break, so it's kind of quite cool if you put too many effects on, you're like, oh shit, how am I gonna get out of that? Just kind of deletes it and lets you go on. So that could be like a backspin, a little bit cheesy if you're playing house, but if you're playing hip hop or something, maybe. And then, so yeah, again, too many effects going on, you don't know really what you're doing. And you just kind of exit it really quickly. It's like a get out of jail free card, or that's how I kind of present it. Okay, so yeah, we get out of that loop. So I'm gonna, let me switch over to this deck because it'll be easier to see. Okay, so yeah, you can see all of these hot cues are loaded in over on this deck here. And the way to delete these is you just press shift, and you can't really see it on the camera here, but as you put new hot cues in, so I'll just play the track and just put them in really quickly. So I've got a red, a blue, a green, a purple, the green, all these pads are that color. So hopefully do this without nothing going off. You can see the colors of the pads. And you can change those, and again, they will all be how you set it up inside the software. And yeah, just to delete them, you just hit shift and then you can delete them all out. And there isn't just one bank of hot cues. Sorry, yes, there's just one bank of hot cues and then the other bank of hot cues on the right-hand side. So yeah, if I just put some cues in, let me just put a cue in at the beginning of the track. So yeah, all quantized, perfectly on time. So let me just get to maybe like here. And then I'll put one down here. Yeah. So yeah, let me delete those out again. Oh no, I'll keep them in actually. So yeah, if I go down to here now, we've now got, I'm gonna go through all the different patterns. In fact, no, I'm not first. So yeah, we've done the effects. We've got this section up here, which is the needle search, which means you can navigate through the track on the fly, which is really, really cool. Kind of similar to our needle search on our CDJ, so you can scroll through the track instantly. Okay, yeah, so you have the needle search to move through your effects and lots of little buttons to be able to see whether you want to have the effects panels up, and you can adjust the grid of the track on the fly if it was off and your syncing was out, and master tempo as well, so you never get the yeah, 100% pitch. So I'll just go back onto a normal tempo range. Yeah, so obviously the platter, which is semiconductive technology, which basically means on the CDJ, when you touch the CDJ, it's all about pressure. So if I, yeah. So the track's stopping, and if I use my T-shirt, it's still gonna stop because it's pressure. But on our controllers, it's basically all, it's all designed on static connection. So it's stopping now. But if I put my T-shirt here, it's gonna break the connection. Yeah, absolutely, like an iPhone. And then, don't do that at a gig. People will be like, the fuck are you doing? Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it's a very cool way to be able to perform in a controller environment because it's much more sensitive. But in a club environment, that type of conductivity wouldn't be great because it might get sweaty and all that type of stuff. Okay, yeah, so it's obviously a 4-channel controller. You can switch between each deck by hitting deck 1 here. And then if you go to deck 3, then it pulls up the other deck where there's no track loaded, but you hit load, and then yeah, you've got, sorry, let me just pull up 4-deck mode. So yeah. And then any point you can just switch back to the other deck and load the track. I'm just gonna go back to 2 deck modes so there's a bit more space on screen. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so obviously your pitch. So yeah, back onto the pad mode. So we did the hot cues. So now if we go shift and hot cue, it brings up a second layer. This is all marked out on the hardware so you can see it. And we've got a beat jump page. So you can basically start to skip quantize through the track. Somebody was talking about that. And if you wanted that to be really long increments, like 32 bars or 8 bars, and then onto the pad effects. So you can see now that we've pulled up our pads again, but we have these cool little effects mapped out to them. So you can map whatever effect you want on to whatever pad you want, and you can change the parameter of each effect. So if I go into edit mode, this pad says roll. It's gonna roll on 1 beat. This is then gonna roll on half beats, quarter beats, and 3/4 of a beat. This bottom left-hand pad's gonna be an echo, and it's gonna be on 16th beat parameter. And this is how you change the effect of the pad. So lots and lots of effects. And I've put this one on crush, and it's gonna be wet, about 35%, and dub echo, which is one of our color effects, and a vinyl break on this pad here. So yeah, if we get out of edit modes, you can basically start to get some, because that was a vinyl. So lots and lots of cool ways. So that could be mode 1, or if you click it again, you can go to mode 2, where you've got even more pad effects. So, don't even know what I've got here.
Can you go back to the hot cue?
Hot cue, just press hot cue. Pad effects. So I know if I go over onto this deck, let me just load. I've got a nice selection of pad effects loaded up. And you always get that. And so. And with this channel as well, if you hit shift, you can go onto the next pad mode. And so if I do a little bit of editing on it, this one is a crush at the minute. If I go into edit, let's make it a pan. And we want it to be 100%. It's not in stereo. But yeah, let me put in like a reverb. So yeah, lots and lots of ways to start editing your tracks up on the fly. So yeah, if I stop that track now, so you can see those samples, it's spliced those parts of the track into those pads, so you can could trigger back anything on the fly, or if you made like a loop and then press the so if I go back into the sampler mode, it's got that little sound there. So no matter what you do, you've got a real ability to capture lots of samples. Anyway, back onto the main sampler to show you the sounds that we were editing up before. If I go back into the sampler mode and go back to bank 1 where I had these sounds. So yeah, you can start to put in patterns. So if I just put a loop in, bit of a bigger loop, and make sure quantize is on the sampler. If I hit overdub, then if I go into velocity sampler mode, and then I can just save these patterns into these little banks here. So if I now stop the little sample and I press and I go into another pattern and I go, if I just do, and then hit save again and press stop on that. Then if I go back to pattern 1 and press play, and then if I go back to pattern 2, so you've got basically, I think it's 8 patterns, and you can record up to 4 bars, and obviously you've got 1 bank, and obviously as well, if you do play you can obviously send it all through the effects as well. Yeah, you've got lots and lots of possibilities. So yeah, the sampler modes, and then the color effects in the middle, the loading, the ability to change how all the browsers work on the fly. And yeah, that's kind of more or less it, actually. All right, well, thank you very much. And yeah, obviously we're going to stick around for a bit, so if you've got any questions, then please do come and ask us. All right, thank you very much.